Welcome to Scrawls Red Carpet. This is part 3 of your Scrawls program, and we're getting into module 1 of Red Carpet, which is all about branding. So, how do we rock this training? First, interact, ask, and share. So, whenever you do any of these trainings, jump onto the Right Now community board and in Facebook and share with them what you found, what your learnings were. Ask any questions, get any clarity on anything that you're not quite clear on, and interact with your fellow Right Now community members. Take away 3 key learnings. So we don't expect you to remember everything that you learn in every video. The videos are there for you to come back to. For now, though, take away 3 key learnings. Work on those 3 key learnings and then come back, watch it again, and you may grab another 3 key learnings. Use the templates. So any templates that are provided are there to assist you on your journey. So ensure that you are using those and set at least 3 actions and take immediate action. So at the end of this training, you should have 3 things that you can do right now to move you forward in your journey and work on them now. Do at least a minimum of 1 today. And allocate time and manage yourself. So remember that you'll do what is important to you. You'll give time to what is important to you. And also make sure to look after yourself during this process. Give yourself the time to do what matters and ensure that you're always coming back and giving yourself a little bit of appreciation. So don't get down on yourself if you do find time gets away and you haven't done for anything for a week or 2 or maybe more. Don't get down on yourself about that. Appreciate it. Go, okay, cool. That's fine. I was doing something else that was more important to me at the time, and now this is more important, and refocus into this. So allocate time and manage yourself. Now, in this presentation, we're going to be going through an introduction to branding. So these are the 3 areas that we're going to cover in regard to branding. You are the brand. We'll go into that more. Aligning your intentions. So how do you take the intentions of your book and align them with your brand? And lastly, branding your book. So we'll go into that more at the end of this. First of all, let's go into you are the brand. And this is the biggest part of this particular training. You are the brand. Your book is the product. Okay. A powerful author brand doesn't happen by accident. It happens by design. So let me explain what I mean by that. Your book is not the brand itself, okay? Your book is in addition to your brand. If you're an author and all you do is write books and that is your thing, your book is still not your brand. You are the brand. So for me, I Am Academy is my brand. For me, as a writer, as a fictional writer, Karen McTaggart is my brand. I trust that makes sense. So you can design your brand, and you should design your brand as well. You should always be considering all the things that you need to create your brand. And we'll go into that more when we look at brand identity and also brand awareness. So you are the brand, as I said, not your book. So here's what you need to do around you as a brand. You need to firstly define who you are. So define what it is that you want to communicate. What is your message? What do you represent? What do you stand for? So firstly, define who you are as a brand. So I've got a picture over here of Homer Simpson, nomming on a donut, because the Simpsons are a brand, okay? And you can define who Homer Simpson is within the brand specifically of Homer Simpson. He loves donuts. He loves food. He's a fat bald guy, and he says dough a lot. That's his brand. So you know who he is. He's well defined. So define yourself within the brand. Maybe Homer Simpson, not a great brand that you want to go for yourself, but hey, I think if you look at how much money he's brought in, not bad. The next step is to start communicating your brand. So once you define who you are and what your brand is, you want to start communicating that brand, getting it out there, whether it be through a website, social media, networking, etc. And you want to communicate everything that is your brand. You want to communicate within your brand as well. So what I mean by that is once you define your brand, everything you say or do or share should be within that definition. Anything outside of that definition is not feeding your brand and therefore should not be a part of what you're demonstrating and communicating. The next thing you want to do is define a tagline or a catchphrase. So let me use as an example. So for me, I Am Academy, define who I am. So I Am Academy is about assisting people to get back to the realness of who they are, getting back to their I amness, and remembering who they were always supposed to be before the world told them they couldn't. How do I communicate my brand? I communicate that through Facebook. I communicate that through a coming website, working on that. But my brand is communicated too through my logo. I have a very specific logo which feeds to my message. So if you look at my logo, I've got a small I and a larger I. So the larger I is kind of almost shadowed behind the smaller I, because the small I, the truth of I amness, which is who we were born as, is the child. Whereas the masked version, which I've kind of pushed in my logo, I've pushed it into the background. That's the masked adult version of who the world told us we were supposed to be. So my branding is actually communicated in my logo as well, and we'll go into that more in a moment. Defining a tagline or catchphrase. So one of my tagline or catchphrase for I Am Academy is living on purpose. So it is about getting back to what you're always supposed to do. And then reinforce your author brand. Now, this is where I've specifically brought the word author into it, because this is about writing your book. You are the brand. The book is not your brand, but you will need to reinforce your author brand. Now, your author brand may equate to your business brand. So for me, my author brand, if I separate my business brand and my author brand is Karen McTackett. So I would need to reinforce that at every state. Now, for me, because Karen McTackett is actually attached to I Am, I'm creating a hybrid brand with those two. I trust that makes sense. So Karen McTackett, as the founder and developer of I Am Academy, is the author within the I Am Academy brand. Okay, I trust that makes sense. So what I must do is always reinforce both I Am Academy and Karen McTackett. So what I mean by that is I Am Academy is about living your purpose. So Karen McTackett lives her purpose, which is to write. I trust that makes sense, and I trust that kind of helps you understand what I mean by reinforce your author brand. You must do what your brand says you do. Okay, so the idea of a brand is to really, just before I go into this next slide I've brought up, the idea of a brand is it's around a promise that you're making to your community. It's a promise of consistency. Now, it is forever evolving, and your brand will evolve over the years as you grow and as your customer base grows and evolves, so too will your brand. However, your brand is a promise of consistency to your community. It's certainty. They know what it is. They know what they can expect. So let's have a look at the brand identity checklist. And I've already mentioned some of these things. This is a checklist of things that you need to consider when developing and designing your brand. So things like your main logo. So for me, I Am Academy, as I said, I've created that very specifically in relation to my brand and message. So your main logo is something that will be a brand identification. And I put that logo on everything, as you should too. The logos, it's in my books. It's so the I Am logo's in all of my books. It's in my publication label. It's on the spine of the books that I publish through my publication label. It's on memes that I post. It's on obviously on my business card, websites, Facebook pages. It's on everything. I even have a T-shirt with it on it. And brand colors. So choose 2 or 3 colors that will be your brand colors. Now, mine are black, white, light blue, and I also have a red. So I have a slightly adjusted brand color for my documentation. So I bring in the red into that documentation, as you'll see with any of the forms that you filled out through I Am Academy. So I have that red header and footer. However, my logo is just black, white, and that light blue, which is the light blue that goes into the background. So the reason I've got the 4 colors instead of sticking to the 2 or 3 is by choice. I wanted the blue of the logo to be only specific to that. So realistically, it's black and white, but I also wanted to bring the red in for my documentation because black and white looks a little bit boring. So, so what you want to do though is have the colors that are associated with your brand. So for me, the black and white's what is associated with my brand. The light blue is so minimal that there's not a huge association with it because I specifically wanted that something to be something that blends into the background. I didn't want that to stand out. The red that's on my documentation is to add a little bit of flair to it. So when in my documentation, you know, instead of just having black and white, I wanted to add a little bit of flair, and therefore I brought that in. But black and white are the colors that are going to be known as my brand. So brand fonts. Now we'll go into fonts a little bit more when we get into cover design and title, and we start talking about things like typography as well. Typography, sorry. So when we talk about those, you'll get a bit more of an awareness around fonts. But in relation to brand, your fonts that you use in your brand are something that's going to stick around. So you want to use a font that is representative of your brand. So if you've been around with IM Academy from the very beginning, you'll know that the font actually changed a little bit. And so it was very clean and it looked rather academic at the start. And then it kind of got a little bit more variety, a little bit rougher, a little bit unknown. So it became a little bit more flowing and natural and a bit more creative. So the font that I use now is much more aligned with my message of being who you want to be and being who you're supposed to be rather than following the rules, if that makes sense. So brand style elements. This is things like patterns and images that you may use. So for me, I don't specifically use any. I do in my documentation. I have a style element in there, and for anyone that's in the 90-day challenge, you'll see a style element in there as well, where I use the same cover designs, and it's related back into the documentation as well. So you'll see those in the documentation, but as an overview for IM Academy, I don't have any style elements within my logo, etc. Brand tagline, we've already mentioned that. So for IM Academy, it is living on purpose, and specifically for this program, the Right Now program. I mean, the actual name of it is a brand tagline, yeah? So the tagline of Right Now with a W is a fantastic brand tagline for this program. So that's actually a program brand. Does that make sense? And obviously, as you would know, IM Academy is brought into that, but it also has its own branding, which is really interesting. Set up social media accounts. Make sure you've got, a Facebook page, fan page, potentially groups if in your business you're doing programs, etc. If your book is for your business, which I know for most of you this is where you're at, then you may want to set up a social media account specifically for your book as well, but always link it back, always have your branding in there, and always link it back to your main brand as well. Social media graphics and image templates. So this would be, for example, if you've been in, well, okay, actually, this is a perfect example. This right here, what you're looking at right now with this PowerPoint presentation, this is a template. All of my modules look the same. There may be some additional trainings that go up that don't look the same as this because I specifically take them away from this look. So this look right here that I have is a template. Now, here's the thing. So the Right Now program, which is about writing, I've chosen to use a template, which is a piece of paper that you would write on. So again, it's going along those lines of matching the brand. Okay, so now obviously I'm talking about the Right Now brand. So I'm talking about the branding of this specific program. The template that I've chosen to use here matches that brand perfectly. So professional headshot and additional photos. So on the back of your book, for instance, you may have a professional headshot in there. On your Facebook pages, you may have professional headshots and photos. Why that's on the brand identity checklist is because those things that you have done still need to align with your brand. So if we looked at, for example, IM Academy being my brand, okay, if I went and got a professional headshot and I dressed up like really, really professional, like I was in the corporate world and I had my hair up in a way I wouldn't usually do, and I had like heaps of makeup in a way I usually wouldn't wear it. That's not bringing my brand. That's not me being I amness. Okay, that's not me being me. That's not me connecting with everything I'm supposed to be. So it's not representative of my brand. For my brand, the kind of professional headshot or photos I would have would be very natural and very flowing and very happy and very, adjusted to my environment and very down to earth, humble. That's the kind of thing that is going to relate back to I Am Academy and I am, okay, as my brand. So if we go back to what I was saying before, where your community is looking for they're looking for a promise of consistency, those photos must also be consistent with your message and with your branding. Okay, business cards and other printed marketing material. Again, same thing. If you look at my business card, and if you've seen my business card, it has the I Am logo in very large writing. That's the main part of it. And then it has a cutout, and it's actually turned into a bookmark. So again, it's representing I am. It's representing a uniqueness, which is I am, and getting back to I amness as well. And it's representing the writing component as well. So in that one card, I am representing everything that is the brand of me. Okay, so it has, and this is actually a really great link for you because it links them all together. So my business card is I Am Academy. It has my name, Karen McTaggart, writer, author, and it has my web address. Okay, and it's got a cutout as a bookmark. So it actually represents all my brand components into it to represent my overall brand of I Am. Okay, I trust that makes sense. I hope that you can see that too, and what I'm referring to there, where my brand is I Am. My brand is living on purpose. Within that brand, I then have me as a writer, Karen McTaggart. I then have the Right Now program, which is the creativity, which is again a combination of that's a combination of I Am Academy and Karen McTaggart equals Right Now. Okay, so my overall brand is I Am. And you'll know through doing this program so far that Right Now continually comes back to I amness and continually comes back to being who you were always supposed to be instead of getting stuck in the world of what you're supposed to do. So it's who you were supposed to be, who you were born to be, not who everyone else told you were supposed to be. And so that's a great representation of how I'm bringing everything back to my branding. Okay. Blog post image templates. Again, same thing as like I was saying with this PowerPoint presentation, is having the templates. Have templates. So I actually have this as well. I have meme templates where it's got the same picture and it's got my logo, and all I do is I actually put in a different quote, and then I can just post those whenever I want. And so people recognize that. They equate that particular image, that particular meme style to me and to I Am Academy and to I Amness. So it all links back. Other visuals, so any other photos, anything else that you're using. Email, brand your email. Make sure you have your information in your email. Have your logo. I've got my logo in my email address. If you've received an email from me, you've seen that. Domain name and professional email account. So my domain name is iamacademy.com.au. So have a domain name that equals your brand, and then professional email account on the back of your branded domain name. So that's your brand identity checklist. Let's have a look at brand awareness. So once you've gone through and you've gone through your checklist and you've got all those things in place to build your brand and you've created your brand, you now need to be very aware of your brand and where your brand is going. Okay. So for instance, be aware of your goals and objectives. What are your goals and objectives within your brand? And here's where having that brand identity becomes really, really useful. Every goal and objective that you come up with, you ask yourself, does that fit with my brand? Yes, rock forth. No, it's outside of it, leave it behind. So this is now giving you that definition that I was talking about at the start of what your brand is. So you can start making decisions about your business, about your book, and about you within that brand identity. Okay? This is great. I love this. So goals and objectives for every single one. Does this meet my brand? Does this align with my brand? Does this provide my community with the consistency of my brand promise? Okay. Is it keeping within that brand? If not, leave it behind. Promotion. So when you come to promoting your brand, again, you need to stay within that definition of what your brand is. Obviously, a bit of flexibility. I don't want to sound like completely strict and harsh on this. You need flexibility. However, that flexibility still needs to align with your brand. I trust that makes sense. So for me, with I am, it being about I amness, my flexibility is in the embracing of all the different components of who I am and the different learnings of who I could be. So for me, the flexibility is in the change, which is really, really epic. So when you're promoting, you also need to be really clear about who your audience is, okay? Because your brand is attracting the audience. Your brand is attracting a particular character, a particular avatar, a particular buyer, a particular follower, etc. So you need to be aware of who you want to attract as well and make sure your brand aligns with that. So when you're promoting to those people that want your brand. You're promoting to that avatar. And when it comes to your book, let's define this in relation to your actual book. When you're promoting your book, it must align with your brand. So for me, for any of you that were around at the very, very start, you may be aware of this. You may, some of you, very, very few of you may be aware of this. But when we first began the Right Now program, I was offering just to publish everyone under I Am Publications. And what I found was some of the books that were being written within the Right Now program did not align with I Am Publications and I Am as a brand. So because there was that lack of alignment of the brand, there was a disconnect with the books available. So I was feeling icky. So what I decided to do at that point was only offer I Am Publications as a publication tool, sorry, for those that I felt aligned with the message. So now it's not on offer to be published through I Am Publications in general. However, once you actually get deeply into your book, if your book aligns with I Am Publications, I may approach you and say, look, I would love to publish you under my label, and I would work out kind of a deal with you of how we make that happen. But it's no longer something I just do without knowing what the branding of the book is, because I must have the alignment within my brand. Okay, so think about that with your book as well. Does the book that you're writing align with your brand? Because what you want to do is, and we'll go into this a little bit more in a moment, we want to have your publication label as an extension of your business. And I know that you probably don't know exactly what I'm talking about right now. We'll go into it a little bit more later. So we'll go into it a little bit more today, and also down the track when we get into Loud and Proud, we'll go into that quite heavily. But for now, just to give you a bit of a thought process, the book, when you publish your book, we want to have a label for you that either is your business name or relates directly to your business name. Now, does your book align with the message of your business? Okay. If it doesn't, you need to ask yourselves questions, go back to the growth and objectives of brand awareness, and ask yourself the question of, do I want my book to align with my business? If your book is not meant to align with your business, if it's a side project and it's not supposed to be part of your business, rock on. If you want it as a lead magnet or a client gift or an additional product that is within your business, the alignment needs to be there. You need to align it, have it completely aligned with your branding. And finally, growth. Now, this is my favorite part, because as your brand grows, and as your business grows, and as you grow, and as your followers grow, and as your clients grow, then your brand grows. So it's a big circular motion, okay? Everything grows and your brand will grow along with it. So your brand is not stagnant where it is right now. Your brand is what serves you and is your brand and serves your followers right now. So your followers will grow though. And so you want to grow with them. If you don't grow with them, you'll just keep serving the same people. And that's fine, but you will need to think, okay, well, how do I serve those people that have actually grown beyond the brand that I offer right now? So as an example with me, for I Amness, it's about getting back to who you're always meant to be. Okay. So I grow with my clients because they're looking for their I Amness and what they're always supposed to be. I, at the same time, am finding out and I'm going through that journey myself. So as I grow, the people that I attract will actually grow as well, and they'll be at a, and I'm choosing my language very carefully here, but let's just, for the sake of argument, say at a higher level than what the clients are that I'm attracting now. What I mean by higher level, let me just explain what I mean. A more thorough awareness. Okay. So as my awareness grows, so will the awareness of the people that are being attracted to my company. So what you've got to do as well with your brand is think slightly ahead. Don't think too far ahead because you don't want to get attached to outcomes, but think a little bit ahead of what's going to happen next. So for me to explain what's going to happen next, I know that I'll continue to attract people that want to write a book and that are looking for that first step. So therefore, this program is now online because of that. When we first started this program, I was doing the entire thing live. I was recording some trainings, but some trainings I was actually recording them live and had the people on the conversation with me. And that was great, but it wasn't sustainable. So the people that were doing that with me have now grown beyond where they wouldn't have done that now anyway, if that makes sense. So I've created this program online for those that are coming in looking for those first steps. Now, as you go through those first steps, and then you become aware of the need for the next steps, such as accountability, that's when you'll actually go into the next phase of the program, which is the 90-day challenge. As you become aware of that 90-day challenge and you learn the challenges within the 90-day challenge, that's when people will become aware of the elite squad and think, okay, now I'm ready for that. But it all starts here, okay? So that's what I mean by my followers growing as I grow, and so my brand is allowing that growth as well. So my brand is providing all these different levels that people can come in through, but it's also giving them that model where they can ascend through those different levels of I Amness and those different levels of awareness. I trust that makes sense. So always consider the growth of where your brand may go. Like I said, you don't want to consider too far ahead. You don't want to get attached to outcomes, but you always want to know where it's going. And you always want to allow the growth, okay? Having said that, always ensure that your brand is still defined, okay? So if it grows and starts losing definition, then your brand will actually dissipate. You don't want it to dissipate. You want it to grow, but you want it to keep the definition. I trust that makes sense. So let's go into the next part, aligning intentions. Now you really want to align this is going back more to you, specifically to your book now. So align your book with the intentions with your brand. So you've done intentions and benchmarks. That was in Spine. You've already done that section of the program. So you've got your intentions. You now need to look at those intentions and ask yourself if they align with your brand. So your message and your intentions should be very close to your tagline. It should align very closely with your branding. If it doesn't, you may want to go back and just look at your intentions again and get real clarity on what you want this book for and what you want the book to achieve and what the message is that you want to put out to the world. So your message should reflect your brand. Your message in your book should reflect your brand. It doesn't need to be the tagline. It doesn't need to be that exact message, but it should be a component of it, a cousin of it, a family member of your tagline, which is also your mission. Okay, so your message in your book should reflect your brand and should be somewhat related to your mission. So the last section is branding your book. And I touched on it briefly. Now, just to reiterate, remembering that you are the brand, your book is the product. So branding your book is not about your book being the brand, it's about bringing your brand to your book. So I mentioned before about your publication label. This would be step one. So for me, my brand is I Am, my business is I Am Academy, my publication label is I Am Publications. Okay. So my I Am branding is all over the place. It's all through my books. All of the books that are published under Karen McTackett as the brand of Karen McTackett as the writer are still under I Am Publications. Every book has at the back of it information about I Am Academy and how they can contact me. The I Am Publications is listed as the publisher. The I symbol is on the spine. So all of my branding is all over my books. This is even including my fictional books. So if you may or may not be familiar with this, but I have a book series that I'm writing called Cupid's Guide. Now that is a series of a journey to self-love, which is really what I Am is about. So it aligns very well with my brand. Hence why I branded my book to I Am Academy and I Am Publications, and why I Am is all over it. I trust that makes sense. So start thinking now what your publication label could be. So I could have been I Am House, I Am Publications, I Am Publishers, I Am Books. Could have been anything like that. But for me, it was always going to have I Am because that's my main brand. So link everything, which is what I was just saying. Link it all up. So for me, Karen McTackett right now, I Am Academy, it's all linked. I even have in my books, so I have I Am Academy, and then I have a bit about Right Now and how people can get involved with that, and do you want to write your own book, and this is how. Okay, so it's all linked up in there. Elicit emotion. Now, here's the thing. If you can, and this is directly through your book, I'm now talking about your book. If you elicit emotion from a reader, you will build trust and loyalty. So I'm now talking about your book as a lead magnet. Okay, so your book can, if you elicit emotion for your book, and then you've got your branding all over your book is eliciting emotion and therefore developing trust and loyalty. They then go to your brand, and you now have trust and loyalty around your brand. So your book takes your reader back to your brand. Okay? So it's about loyalty to your brand, not to your book, to your brand. And I want to give you a great example, actually. So you're familiar with Stephen King. Now, Stephen King wrote some books under the name Richard Bachman. Now, Stephen King, that's his brand. Okay, just like Karen McTackett for me as a writing name is a brand. Stephen King is Stephen King's brand. Everyone knows Stephen King. Like, people will buy a Stephen King book just because it has the brand of Stephen King on it. They don't need to read the blurb. They don't want to know what the book's about. They don't care. It's got his brand on it, so they buy it. Like Louis Vuitton. Some people will buy a Louis Vuitton bag. They don't, or whatever it may be, just because it's got the Louis Vuitton brand on it, because they have loyalty to the brand. Now, with Stephen King, he had loyalty to his brand, and then he wrote a bunch of books under Richard Bachman, who did not have brand loyalty. Same author, bugger all sales. When I say bugger all sales, he actually didn't do too bad because it is Stephen King and he's an amazing writer. But people didn't know it was Stephen King, so they were looking at the books and they were deciding whether to buy the book based on the book, not based on the brand. So once Richard Bachman, as Richard Bachman, there was one particular book, I can't remember, I think it might have been The Thinning, and he sold like 38,000 copies, which is pretty freaking awesome, guys. Pretty awesome. He sold 38,000 copies. But then somebody cottoned on, and they made the connection that it was Stephen King, and suddenly he'd sold 380,000 copies. Just like that, because the Stephen King branding was attached to it. So that's the power of branding. So use your book to go back to your brand and build the loyalty to your brand. And then when you write your next book, everyone who's already loyal to your brand is going to buy your book. And with this book right now, if you've got people that are loyal to your brand right now, they're going to buy your book that is branded with your current brand. I trust that makes sense, because they have loyalty to your brand. They're going to buy your book. Okay? Pretty cool, yeah? And make sure you have a consistent message. This goes back to the whole concept of branding. is that it is a promise that you consistently keep to your audience and to your followers. So ensure that in your branding, your message is consistent. Okay. Again, stay within the refined definition of who you are as a brand and what your brand is, keeping in mind the flexibility, and that the flexibility still needs to be within the definition of what your brand is. So what's next? We're going to look at the next module will be cover design, which will be fantastic. So make sure you check that out. First of all, though, what I want you to do is, as I mentioned at the start of this, interact, ask, and share with our tribe. Write down your 3 key learnings. What were the 3 things that you learned from this training? Write down your 3 actions. Benchmark them and set a date. So work out what the 3 things that you're going to do, how you know when you've achieved them, and set the date of when you're going to achieve them. Attempt. I would highly recommend I highly recommend you do one of those actions, complete one of those actions today. So allocate time and manage yourself. We've gone over that. And of course, know your outcome without attachment. Know where you're going, but have the flexibility to know that where you're going will be different to where you end up, because growth will take you in places that you don't quite yet see, which is just awesome. So as I mentioned, next module is going to be module 2, cover design. So would love to know, what did you feel? What did you learn? What did you love? And of course, most importantly, what are you going to do right now?